Let's freaking go. What a glorious Tuesday night live stream. You know the schedule. 8:15 Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And obviously Saturday game day. You guys know the deal. We are so freaking close to the beginning of what should be a college football playoff run. We're going to talk about pretty much everything LSU said yesterday. We've already done a video yesterday on Brian Kelly and Jayden Daniels and what they had to say. But tonight, I actually want to focus on what MEKHI WINGO had to say because he just left a huge clue for you guys. And a little bit later, we're going to chat a little bit about Jayden Daniels and his day at SEC Media Days. I'm also going to give you some insight on a defensive back commitment. You guys remind me to do this a little bit later because I don't like talking a whole lot about recruiting at this point, but there is a key player out there out of Florida by the name of Kai Bates, who I like a lot. So we're going to talk about all of that today. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, let a friend know, family member, cousin, main chick, side chick, if they are a diehard LSU football fan. Now, here's the thing. I only want diehard LSU football fans. I don't want the, hey, it's the season, let's go tailgate and leave by the third quarter LSU fans. That's not what I do. Those aren't the people that I like to put myself around, okay? So, truth be told, I'm a big MEKHI WINGO fan. And part of it is because I'm a big believer in 3 stars living out their dreams at the high Division I level. So what I want to do is show you this clip, kind of a clue here left by MEKHI WINGO. This is via LSU Tigers on Tiger Bait.
Do you think this defensive line can be next year?
I think the defensive line can be, really good. Getting a guy like Mason Smith back, a guy that can wreck a game, and Savion Jones, this is his year to step up and, really put his impact on the LSU program. And Deshaun Womack and Jackson Howard, they've come in and been putting the work. Those guys are working really hard. They're taking the coaching, and they're going to be really good for us this year.
On the right, front row.
Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Last year you played both Alabama and Georgia. Was there a distinction between the two teams? And do you feel that Georgia has surpassed Alabama in terms of being the pinnacle of college football?
I wouldn't say there was a distinction between the two teams. There was 2 great offensive lines, 2 great quarterbacks, and 2 great coaches on both. Georgia, obviously the defending national champs. So, they have the trophy right now. But both programs are phenomenal, and we'll be looking forward to playing them this year.
So, obviously, that was WINGO. Now, I wanted to play both of those questions just to give you an idea of what SEC Media Days is really like. The truth is these players are coached up really well to answer all of these questions. Now, it's not for me or anyone to say that they wouldn't have done a good job answering all these questions, but SEC Media Days is very intimidating. When you are talking to all these strangers, a lot of which aren't the crowd that you are normally around, it is intimidating. And honestly, they are being coached up now more than ever with all the different types of interviews that can be done at Media Days now because everybody has a phone. So the questions I like are specific ones. The second one wasn't really that specific, right? He gave you a pretty straightforward answer, an answer that you think you are going to get. We are looking forward to playing both of those teams. But the first one was a clue, okay? The answer was very good, but it featured specific names, okay? So Mason Smith was talked about quite a bit by Brian Kelly. He talked about how pass protections that LSU will face next year won't be the same because of all the command that Mason Smith brings to the table. Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat. But the 2 other names he mentioned, Deshaun Womack, Jackson Howard, all right? 2 major clues, all right? Now, why is that? Well, LSU's defensive line is deep. When it comes to scholarship players, it is a deep group. And it's a deep group full of highly coveted transfers and just highly coveted recruits. The issue is most of them aren't proven. They're not proven. And the kind of scary thing is a lot of these guys are top 150 recruits and they've really not done anything after a year or 2 years in the program. It is really hard to compete at the Division I level. Some guys develop at different speeds. We all know this. But the fact that he mentioned Deshaun Womack and Jackson Howard by name is very interesting. Now, I will share a little bit about both of those guys. The first is Jackson Howard has a good opportunity to play a lot of football next year. He comes from good bloodlines. Obviously, his dad was a defensive lineman for the Vikings, so genetics matter. The second thing is this guy was an amazing high school football player in Minnesota. He played quarterback. He played off linebacker. He played tight end. I mean, he played everything. Obviously, Minnesota high school football is not really that great, but he comes in with a lot of hype, and his spring was really good. Ovia Gufu is ahead of him. Ovia Gufu is going to eat up most of the snaps this year because he's a fifth-year player, and he's proven. He's proven that he could play high-level Division I football. And then they also have Braden Swinson in the mix coming in from Oregon. I am truthfully not as high on Braden Swinson as I am Howard and Ovia Gufu. So Jackson Howard is going to play a lot. I truly do believe it. He is going to play a lot at the jack linebacker position. But Deshaun Womack, that is the name right there. Okay. MEKHI Wingo said, hey, Savion Jones, he has been a decent player up to this point. That's not what he said, but he said, you heard him, it is time for Savion Jones to step up. It is time for him to take that next step. It is time for Savion Jones to become who we all think he can become. At this point in his career, Savion Jones has been a good player. Honestly, his season last year reminded me a lot of a Jamarie Roscoe. Who remembers Jamarie Roscoe, a former defensive end at LSU on those Jeremy Hill, Zach Mettenberger, Odell teams. And Jamarie Roscoe is a good player. He's a very good SEC player. Can we get that level of play from Savion Jones next year at that defensive end role? It's a very difficult role. His build isn't necessarily the absolute best fit for that role. Is he going to step up? When I tell you Deshaun Womack is a really good fit for that role, I truly do mean it. I'm telling you right now, Deshaun Womack, I think, is going to play a lot of football next year. Now, you notice a poll question. Which true freshman do you think is going to contribute the most next year on defense? You see a few people in that poll. I want you right now in the live chat or in the comment section below. It doesn't matter when you're listening to this. Let me know, who do you think that true freshman is going to be on defense? Okay. There you go. Cliff, get you some PHL merch at powerhourlsu.com. So there you go. Yeah, Jamarie Roscoe, he did play for Evangel. So I am very interested to see if those guys do step up. Okay. And it's wide open on that defensive line. Huge clue left right there by MEKHI Wingo in a press setting where the answers are very much the same. Okay. So look, obviously LSU's not the only team that spoke at SEC Media Days over the past couple of days here. Obviously, today we heard from Georgia, we heard from Missouri, and yesterday we heard from LSU. And also today we heard from Auburn, but yesterday we heard from LSU and a few others. So obviously a lot of different questions, a lot of different media sessions. I'm not going to talk too much about what happened yesterday because that's already in the past, and we've already done a video on that. But if you have a question on anything that Brian Kelly said, Jayden Daniels said, we'll obviously be very happy to get to it. But very interesting to hear Wingo show those guys some praise. Okay. Let's see. TJ Houshmandzadeh. I'll love me some TJ Houshmandzadeh, whose daughter plays for LSU. That's true. Wingo is a beast. So there you go. Do you think Jayden Daniels will step up like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? We'll see. What's up, Andrew? Good to see you. But Jammer Chase, I don't know about Jammer Cheese. Or is it Jammer Cheese? Huh? There we go. We are Jamari Orozco fans here. So let's go to Jordan. Wingo is the guy when you call when your bike tire pops on the way home from school. He pulls up in stepdad's truck, puts the bike in the bed, has sunflower seeds for you on the ride to your house. I love that. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Skipper updates us his twin daughters left LSU. So there you go. They played for the LSU softball team, I believe. But it's pretty cool. But you are right about that, Jordan Haddad. And I will go one step further. I think Wingo has a very good shot of being the number 18 next year for LSU. I could see Major Burns. I could see a few others. But there you go. Obviously, he has won pretty much all the offseason awards you could win. Now he's the SEC Media Days representative. I think he has a very good shot at being your number 18 next year. Now, next thing, I would just reiterate the same thing I basically said about Josh Williams and Jayden Daniels from yesterday. Their poise was amazing, and Tommy Karam and that whole LSU media staff, they did a good job preparing them for SEC Media Days. Part of it with SEC Media Days, you don't want any news clippings coming from you guys out of context. And honestly, there is not a single like viral tweet from any one of those three that can be totally ripped out of context. And that's a very good thing, right? That is a very, very good thing. Now, go to Jared. Very good super chat here, Jared. Once again, you get to pick the next topic. Go right on ahead. Also, something else, to go along with the number 18 thing, as the press points out, you very well could have two number 18s next year, right? More often than not, there's an offensive number 18 and a defensive number 18. Last year, I shared my desire for Jeray Jenkins to also get the number 18, along with the great BJ Ojolari. I was perfectly fine with only BJ getting it. But I think 5 of the last 7 years, there's been 2 number 18s on every LSU team. One on offense, one on defense, or one on offense and one on special teams, right? Because Avery Atkins got it as well. So obviously, for me, finishing up here on JD5, really good day for him. Really good day. Came in with the fresh shoot, answered all the questions you want to be answered. Obviously, Brian Kelly always gives the media very interesting answers. And like I told you last week, BK was going to give you the most interesting quotable responses. But I say this, right? You got to give these players a lot of credit for this, okay? My favorite thing about SEC Media Days is nothing, and I mean nothing, from our players, like we just mentioned a minute ago, ended up being like a viral bit. Like, I saw this earlier. So all the Texas A&M players decided to wear sunglasses for all their media appearances in like a big press setting. It didn't look good. Like, I didn't understand like the fashion statement. I just didn't think it looked good. And they also said some weird stuff, right? McKinley Jackson, defensive tackle, who tore us up. Full disclosure, he tore us up last year. He's a really good player. And we almost got him. He was talking about Texas A&M. They should have gone 10-2. They should have gone 10-2 last year because they lost all these one-possession games. You still lost them. And some of those one-possession games were games that you should not have won anyway. And if you're a 5-7 team, I don't ever want to hear we should have been 10-2. Huh? I don't ever want to hear that. Semper, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Now, let's go to Zach's question to go along with the Deshaun Womack question or statement I made a minute ago. I think he is going to play defensive end. I do. Do I think he could play some jack as well? Yes, I do. He is kind of a tweener in like that 240, 250, 260 range, where he's not quite like the speed demon bender, like a Chason or a BJ Ojolari, but he's kind of thicker, right? He reminds you a little bit more of, let's say, like a Kirsten Pittman, if you will, but with more upside, right? So I think his hand is going to be in the dirt, and he will rotate in with um with Savion Jones. Now it's very interesting, to get, kind of technical here. Um LSU runs a 3-4 front, but they have a lot of these defensive ends who are prototypical 4-3 end builds, right? I know that's a little complex, but it's just how it is. It's just how most of, their defensive ends are built, right? And it is kind of weird fits for some of those guys. Like Savion Jones is like a really good build for a 4-3 end. So think um like Kirsten Pittman, Tyson Jackson, Sam Montgomery, those kinds of players. But the front that we run doesn't really do that. You got to do a wider variety of things in our front. But yeah, I think Savion Jones and Deshaun Womack are going to have a good year. But I would not be shocked if Womack is playing a lot game one. It would not shock me at all. And I know that seems a little strange, but what I will tell you is, and this is a big thing about Brian Kelly, I do not like coaches that dig their heels in and not learn from their past mistakes. And the biggest mistake that LSU made last year, and it's one that a lot of teams do, they didn't play their best players in the first game, right? Now, there's no way that they could have possibly known that, Harold Perkins and Emory Jones would be so ridiculously good in their first year, but they were clearly better than the guys that were playing ahead of him. And in this Florida State game, I do not think LSU is going to reserve, true freshmen for, the Grambling game the next week. Play your best players, right? Play your best players. Because something else MEKHI Wingo brought up was Harold Perkins clearly being that guy in practice, right? And he said it before. He said that he saw something in the Mississippi State practice, but boots on the ground told me it was way, way, way before the Florida State game. Right when Harold Perkins stepped foot in pads, it was pretty clear that he was playing at a different level than basically everybody else. So if you see that from Deshaun Womack, play him versus Florida State. But he is a guy that I have honestly just grown on quite a bit in this process. So I really do. I really do like that. I really, really, really do. We say hi to LA Mom. Good to see you. Pooh Bear, one of the sharpest LSU media guys out there. Good to see you, man. Joe, good to see you. Joe, always positive energy. Wingo and Williams would be awesome number 18s. I totally agree with that. Now, next thing. All right. And I'm looking at you when I say this. Okay. On Thursday's night's live stream. Don't forget, Wednesday night we'll go live at 6 p.m. Very laid back live stream. Obviously, it's intense at the same time. It's practically the same thing that we do now. But the truth is, with SEC Media Days, we got to go hard or go home. So tomorrow night we'll be live at 6. And then on Thursday night, 8:15, that's going to be a big live stream. We will know the predicted order of finish in the SEC. And we will know if the media actually picks LSU over Alabama. I think it's going to be close. But I think LSU is going to be the trendy team. And I think the media is going to pick them. I do. I really, really, really do. But we shall see. H-Town Creole, good to see you. BK2XIQ is Jimbo Fisher. Absolutely. Working on something on Power Hour SEC. Don't forget to subscribe to that channel as well if you want more general SEC coverage. I'm going to have a deep breakdown on Jimbo Fisher's press conference yesterday because there was a lot of people freaking out over what Jimbo said, and rightfully so. Okay, Jimbo is cooked. He is cooked. Now, what I would say to this, and I'll say this for a little bit later. I'll stick with LSU for right now, but I want this to be very clear. I want this to be very clear. All right. Bobby Petrino is the best play caller in college football over the past few decades. Just look at the results. Go look at the yard per play numbers for yourself. Okay. He has been this way for 2 decades. Now, he is hellacious to deal with. I have had my awkward encounters with him. He is probably the most socially awkward guy that I've ever met in the coaching profession. So all those things that you hear about him is true, but the guy is transcendent when it comes to actually calling the plays. I just don't think Jimbo's going to let him cook. You've got to let that man get to work. I don't know if you guys remember this name, Stephon LaFours. Who remembers that name? That was basically his first quarterback at Louisville. He had that dude looking like freaking Drew Brees at Louisville. And he was not that. I'll tell you that. But no, it's not too soon. It's just the truth. Jimbo can't get out of his own way. He just can't. So, there you go. What's up, Jason? Good to see you. I always love seeing Jason in the chat. But yeah, so don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have any LSU related questions, super chat, we'll get straight to it. Now, next thing I'll bring up from what I saw at SEC Media Days today, obviously Kirby Smart hit the podium, and they asked questions about all the off the field stuff that has happened. And I thought Kirby answered it well, but obviously it is very strange that those things happen more so at Georgia than anything else. We'll see what happens there. But obviously, they're really focused on getting everything done at Georgia to make it a three-peat. I've got to be real with you. I know Georgia lost a lot again with Stetson Bennett. They are loaded. They are absolutely loaded again this year. And they had a little bit better player retention than I thought that they were going to. And they had a little bit better of a transfer portal class than I thought that they were going to. So I don't know. I hope you guys will get mad at me for thinking that Georgia is going to be the team we rematch in Atlanta again this year. I do think it's going to be LSU and Georgia again. So yeah, I would keep an eye open on the Bulldogs next year. Okay. Now, next thing. I found Elijah Drinkowitz. I like Elijah Drinkowitz. I think that Missouri found themselves a good coach. I like what they have on their roster. I hate that we're playing them this year, but so be it. I think Eli came off very impressive. I also thought Hugh Freeze came off pretty impressive as well. SU Freeze next year will not be calling plays, which is very, very interesting. I just think that head coaches calling plays is just not the best thing. You just got too many things going on. And play calling is a completely different beast than actually running a program, right? You have got to keep all the P's and Q's and the off the field stuff together as the head coach of the program, because it ultimately falls back on you, right? The how fair or not fair it is, it falls back on you. So I truly do believe Auburn under Hugh Freeze can be a problem. I really do. I like Philip Montgomery. I like Ron Roberts. I like the hires that they made. So I think that game could be tricky, as this will be the last year we play them. We won't be playing them in 2024. So at all. Very, very interesting. As well, we could actually if we meet each other in the SEC championship game, because there will be no more divisions. But obviously, John Emery will play next year, Jason. He will play. Okay. And obviously, when I say next year, I'm talking about this coming year, this year. Okay. Not next year. I'm not going to be talking about 2024 right now. Okay. So, yeah, when I'm saying next year, I'm obviously this next coming year. All right, just to be clear. Okay. Mizzou will give us hell. I hate that game, man. I hate that game. Okay. Now, I want to bring up one final thing. All right. Obviously, Brian Kelly was very open about the because some of you didn't see the video yesterday, so we'll talk about this. So about a week and a half ago, he had that viral clip of him saying, "Hey, we might be more than a year away from actually competing for a national championship." Okay. He believes it's not this year that could be our year. He was trying to temper down the expectations when he spoke to USA Today a few weeks ago. Now, I searched far and wide. I did not find anybody that directly asked him about that. I maybe somebody did, I don't know. But I found that to be very interesting. However, he did say something to Josh Pate in Josh Pate's one-on-one with him that I thought was very interesting. So he kind of referenced the 1 year away thing while he was talking about the transfer portal. I don't think Brian Kelly wants to be living in the transfer portal. I've seen a few questions flying about Paris Shand, but I do believe BK is mostly concerned with the secondary because this is yet again another year that the secondary is mostly transfers. Okay. That is a very dangerous game to play for a lot of different reasons. A lot of them. The first is you're not always guaranteed to hit transfer X or transfer Y in the portal, right? Because, well, it's a portal. He wants to build his program through high school recruiting, right? Those guys still take up a majority of your roster. And that also tells you how good you are at just picking out good players, right? If you were to go into the portal, it's a lot easier to see if a guy is good or not from the transfer portal because you have college film, right? You have college Division I film of them going up against other breathing organisms at the Division I Power 5 level. Obviously, it's hard to high school evaluate. It's hard to pick out the right kids from the right areas that fit what you want to do. And obviously, those guys are going to always make up a good bit of your team. All right. But these first couple of seasons under Brian Kelly, our team has mostly been transfers. I would say probably half of LSU's top 20 players or half of their two deep next year will be either first year transfers or second year transfers, right? So I do feel the transfer portal is not something where Brian Kelly wants to live. And obviously, to Josh Pate, he said, hey, if there's one thing that you are that could hold you back, Brian Kelly said, well, obviously injuries, but that's for every team. He followed that up with, we have to be able to defend on the back end, right? Now, one way to help to defend on the back end is, well, having better pass rush. And Brian Kelly objectively believes that Mason Smith joining our lineup again is going to give us better pass rush. Perfectly cool. But the next thing I would bring up is obviously outside of pass rush and all those different things, you just got to be able to defend and lock up on the back end. Now, one thing I think LSU is going to do more of this year than what they did last year is I do think they want to play more aggressive defensively. I thought last year that they had more success doing that. That's a little bit anecdotal, but watching that defense for a full year, it seemed as if they liked playing aggressive, right? That was a big thing that changed in the Ole Miss game. In the first half, LSU, kind of let Lane cook and let Ole Miss get to work. And then as the game moved on, had Burke in on a higher snap share. And then we were just more aggressive, right? We didn't let them play pitch and catch or do their deep crossers that, if you give them time to let them develop, they will develop. I do think next year LSU is going to want to be more aggressive, but the only way you can do that is if you have the players to be more aggressive, right? Like, the little bit I watched of Deuce Chestnut, he played a lot of off coverage where, you're just playing off of guys like 6-7 yards back. And that's obviously a coaching, schematic decision to do that thing. So we shall see. I think for me, the secondary is also the biggest concern, and it's not just the spring game performance. It's honestly, some of that, but not all of that. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. So we'll see how that unit performs next year. And I think, quite a few of us agree with that. And I'm sure the LSU DBs are hearing that. That's not me saying, though, I'm not confident that the elites of that position group will eventually emerge. So we'll see. I think one thing that's going to be very interesting going into next year for the secondary is not only do you have these unproven guys, can a guy like Major Burns and Greg Brooks, who we've seen a lot of, can those guys take a next step themselves, right? Because there were some inconsistent moments from those guys as well. Can they take that next leap? And if they do, we're going to have a really, really good back of our defense, right? We're going to have a very good linebacker core with Perk, Spates, Greg Penn, and Weeks, and potentially a few others, both the Weeks, actually. And then, obviously, our defensive front, if Deshaun Womack is who we think he is, that group has some depth, and they should be pretty solid, okay? Let's see. Let's go to Simper's Super Chat. Good to see Simper. As always, these 99-cent Super Chats, they come in as $100 Super Chats on my end. They do, right? I don't know if you guys could see it, but they come in red. So if they're red like that, you see it's like that. It's like it's a hundo. So it still flashes on my screen as a hundo. But I'll take 99 cents. Hey, if 99 cents from each of you came in, that would be pretty cool as well. What's up, Big Al? Good to see you. I'm going to go with yes right now, but I don't want to talk too much recruiting tonight. The only guy that I wanted to bring up was Kai Bates tonight, the defensive back. He says he has a decision date set. I believe he picked the 22nd. So, or I think he picked someday next week. I don't remember, but his decision is coming up. He is a top 125 defensive back based out of Florida. So, yeah, it should be very interesting if LSU is able to land him. Obviously, getting another DB, LSU's done pretty well recruiting defensive backs recently, and let's see if they can get a pretty nice one out of that area. Okay. We're going to have more back-end defense than a prison shower. Really? Really? Huh? This is crazy. I did not expect that comment tonight. I just didn't. I love it. I really, really, really do. The Sunshine State. What's up, Rodney? Good to see you. Now, we'll do this. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know. Do you feel the best LSU? Let me see. How do I want to phrase this? Okay, let's do this. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Javian Toviano will be the best true freshman defensive back for LSU. Type Y for yes. Well, not defensive back. Let me rephrase this. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you believe Javian Toviano will be LSU's best defender as a true freshman next season? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let me know. Let's get that. Deshaun Womack is currently winning the poll. Look at that. There you go. You think because of opportunity, he will get a good opportunity to play the absolute most next year. That's absolutely true. Now, I'll say this about Toviano. I think he's going to play a lot next year. I really do. He is a well put together athlete. He looks like a Division I football player, and he played the part throughout spring. And obviously, one thing that was very interesting, I watched a lot of his high school games last year. They blew a lot of coverages. Now, they weren't his fault, but they were all over the place. And he gets in as a true freshman, okay? And as the spring moved on, they kept moving him around. And that's a good thing, right? They tried him at outside corner. He kind of settled in as nickel. I could see him eventually being a safety. So he had a lot on his plate, and he played well. He was to me, one of the better performances in spring. Now, some of that is just, stuff that I hear, but also some of this is a spring game, and a lot of it's also just my high school evaluation of him. He just looks impressive. And I think he's going to be really, really good next year for us. And he could be the most necessary piece. I also thought this was interesting, and maybe one of you guys could back me up on this. Sometimes I feel as if I am just seeing things. Sometimes I feel that way. Okay. I really, really, really do. But when LSU released the new jersey numbers, I could have sworn, and I've reached out, haven't got anything back on this. I could be totally wrong on this because it is kind of weird when something like this happens, because sometimes I see things and it's not really what I saw and it's a mistake. But you guys know I'm a jersey number guy. Freaking love jersey numbers. It's my favorite thing in the world. I really love it. I could have sworn that Andre Sam was given the number 8 uniform. I could have sworn I saw that on the roster, that Andre Sam was listed as jersey number 8. But now he is listed as jersey number 36. I've always thought that was so interesting. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so he's number 36, but I thought he was number 8. Like, I could have sworn when I looked at I even tweeted it out at the time. Andre Sam was number 8. I don't know. Maybe that was a mistake by me. I don't know. Let's go to Roby super chat. Maybe someone else saw that. But jersey numbers change. They do before the season. Yo, why doesn't the 2004 LSU coaching staff, they don't get the credit? How many national championships have they combined? Okay, so let's actually pull this up for Roby. Okay. I actually do this. Look, I'll show you this really quickly. It's kind of interesting that Roby did the super chat. So let's do a share screen right here. So nobody is number 8 on defense, but as you guys know, you can have double numbers. I promise you, it could have just been me. It could just be my mistake. So obviously, they're not going to have a number 9. They're not going to announce the number 7 or 18 just yet. But Malik Neighbors, of course, is number 8, and Andre Sam is down here at number 36. on everything, I thought that he was number 8. I really thought so. But what do I know? Huh? So let me pull up this 2004 coaching staff for Roby. I was actually studying the 2005 staff not too long ago. Les Miles' first staff. Okay. So let's go to 2004 coaching staff. Okay. Bring this down here. All right. Okay. That's interesting. They don't have Saban up there anymore. But obviously, you see Will Muschamp, Mike Collins, Derek Dooley. So obviously, Will Muschamp has won, quite a few national championships as a DC. If they have I wonder if did they just take Saban off this altogether? Let me see. Yeah, they did. Okay. Yeah, I don't even have Saban listed. So by this, Dan Hickson is the GOAT. But I will show you 2005. Okay. I want you to see this coaching staff right here. Okay. This coaching staff always fascinated me. All right. Because the funny thing about it was this team was not that well coached. They blew quite a few leads, and lucky enough they didn't lose because this team was so freaking good talent-wise. So Les Miles, obviously, not coaching anywhere. Jimbo Fisher, Texas A&M head coach. Bo Pelini, future Nebraska head coach. Josh Hinson, currently at USC, was the longtime offensive line coach, I believe, at Texas A&M. Doug Mallory had a very good, obviously, career. Todd Monken's had a spectacular career, now with the Ravens, but obviously, with Georgia this past year. Bradley Dale Pivoto has had quite a few coaching stops after that. Larry Porter, obviously, a very successful career. I believe he was a head coach at Memphis for a little bit. Sam Nader, Tommy Moffitt won all the national championships at LSU. This guy is actually at Florida State right now, John Papachis. I referenced him not too long ago. Bo Davis is at Texas. Carl Dunbar currently with the Steelers. Obviously, they both played at LSU. And where is Stacy Searles? I think he's at North Carolina. Don't quote me on that. But that's crazy how good this staff actually ended up being just to, blow the lead versus Tennessee like we did. But yeah, Kirby obviously has 2. Jimbo has 1. And then, of course, Saban has, I lost count. But Saban's got 7 of them. Dooley with the cross-eyed. Yeah, that's crazy. Everybody welcome Samuel to the channel. He wants to talk some Quincy Wiggins. Everybody welcome Samuel. He's got the button down. Good to see you, man. Quincy Wiggins, breakout year. I think he could eventually be a rotational guy, but I don't think he's going to play versus Florida State. I do see him playing special teams this next year, though. So be on the lookout for that. Okay? Jack believes he's a year 3 guy. I agree. Don't be surprised we have another defensive All-American wearing number 40, Whit Weeks. I like that. Let's take a look at the poll results really quickly. Which true freshman defender will have the biggest impact? Deshaun Womack currently winning this poll. Now, I'll do this. If we hit to a hundo tonight in Super Chats, I will give away one of my favorite Jeremy Hill cards. Bang. Triple patch, well, quadruple patch, but a 3-color patch right here. Very sick, nice, good autograph here from Jay Hill. Auto kind of runs off the sticker, but that's okay. But yeah, you will get this card from me if we hit a hundo in Super Chats tonight. How about that? Perk is wearing 4. Tyler, good to see you. One of our many patrons. That's good to see. Both from Florida, of course. And again, he recruits everybody hard. That is true, Big Al. Halftime adjustments really showed up last season. Had a former LSU coach who predicted 90% of plays and all plays when it was 1st and goal. Which coach was that? But yeah, they had our number. They did. 0 for 10 on 3rd down in that game. Now, let's see. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Witt and West weeks, right? Obviously, cool to have brothers on the team. They might be on the field at the same time some next year. It's a very plausible situation. I think West is a very good SEC linebacker. I think Witt can be very good, though. I really, really, really do. I think, man, he could be really, really, really good. Our patrons know that, I was on the Witt Weeks train for a while. There was 2 players I thought was just very underrated in this last class. And that was Witt Weeks and Kyle Parker. And I also like Caleb Jackson, but he was always kind of a top 100 guy. But Kyle Parker and Witt Weeks were 3 stars for a long period of time. And I just did not see that. I thought that they were 4-star or better players. And I think in particular, Witt Weeks, I think he's got a little bit of a clearer path to playing time, not only on defense, but on special teams. He has a really good shot to play special teams. I think Witt Weeks has the most versatile high school tape I've ever seen from any LSU recruit. He did everything for his high school team. He played tight end. He played running back. He played fullback. I think he played some H-back. On defense, he lined up as a pass rusher, lined up as an off-ball linebacker, would drop back deep into coverage. And he just made spectacular plays. I mean, he returned kicks. He was on kickoff team. And I like that. I like seeing a versatile tape like that. And I think that can translate really well in the SEC, right? So, yeah, it should be very interesting. Obviously, we have seen the younger brother of quite a few LSU players move up the ranks and become better than those that were before him, right? So it's going to be very interesting. I really do like Witt Weeks a lot next year, and I think he's going to have a really, really, really good shot to play next year. Let's go to Samuel here. We always want first-timers to feel welcome. Once again, if you are a first-timer, schedule remains the same as always. Tuesdays at 8:15, Thursdays at 8:15, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central, and Sundays at 8:15 Central. And, of course, pregame, halftime, and postgames during the season. Which 2 corners do I have starting game 1? Okay. I do believe it's going to be Deuce Chestnut and Denver Harris. I do think that is subject to change. I could see Zy Alexander be a starter day 1. And then, I could see LaTerrence Welsh being a rotational piece. I don't think he will start. But I do think Deuce Chestnut has a really good shot of starting, even though he did not participate in spring football. Part of it is because he played against Florida State last year. So he knows their tendencies. He's prepared, even though it wasn't with our defense. In particular, he went up against Johnny Wilson last year at Florida State, and he got beat. He got beat once. And obviously that game was out of hand before it could really get started. But yeah, I could very well see quite a few names. I feel comfortable about Chestnut starting, and I think it's either going to be Denver Harris or Zy Alexander for that other corner. I really, really, really do think so. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different names that could play that role. But I do think I do think BK's very worried about how we match up against their receivers, because their receivers are really good. Okay. They are really, really, really good. Okay. Alexander looks more like a safety to Rodney than a corner. I think he's playing corner, man. BK mentioned Alexander by name. He did. So there you go. To finish up really quickly, Roby, on this, what that 2005 coaching staff taught me, and a lot of the Les Miles coaching staffs, is your assistants are nothing without the head coach being competent, right? Like, if we really go look at the 05 team, they were all over the place. They were very talented. They only lost 2 games. That was a really, really, really talented team, but they were all over the place. The 04 team obviously was really good as well, but that 05 team, with all those legendary coaches on there, they were all over the place. And once again, they still won, but Tennessee game, the Arkansas game, there's quite a few games that got a little weird, if you will. And Jack says we'll have a rotation of corners until 1 or 2 stick out. Totally agree with that. I think there will be quite a few players that will have their shot of getting a chance to play. Now, one thing I do fear is I do believe Florida State has an identity going into this game, and we do as well. Last year, that was not the case. Florida State, they returned Jordan Travis. They returned, their head coach and their defensive coordinator. So now, Florida State's returning a lot. They're returning a lot. Okay. And one of the most important stats to have for a national championship team is, what do you return? Okay. And for some national championship teams, they didn't return as much as others, but a lot of our best teams had a high returning starter and snap rate, which we have. Florida State does as well. I will still stand by this, though. With a 4-team playoff, yes, this game is a quote-unquote must win. You just can't afford to lose games. But at the same time, you kind of can. It's not the end of the world if LSU, especially if they lose in a close one like we did last year, it's not the end of the world, right? But it would be very nice to win this game, because we do not want, yet again, another year of us losing a season opener. And honestly, the most important thing outside of winning the game, I just want to see us play well, right? For 4 consecutive years, we did not have a well-played season opening game. In more years than not, in the season opener at LSU, we have not played well versus Power 5 competition. So obviously I want to win. I don't want to lose. But at the very least, let's just say Florida State, let's just say this team is 2018 Clemson or whoever else. They're actually really good and they beat us. Sometimes you tip your hat to them. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe we are going to win. I do. But we'll see. Obviously, opinions can change before the game. A lot of things can change before the games. Injuries can change before the game. So there you have it. Now, here's what you're going to do. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep this thing going all freaking night long. All night long. Okay. Let's go to Sibley. If a corner comes out of high school with good ball skills, or if good ball skills were shown in first year, teams will not throw their way. That's absolutely true. I remember after 1912 happened, I remember Greg McElroy saying, "Oh yeah, we're not throwing the Morris Claiborne side at all," because in the first game, Mo Claiborne had that almost pick six. They said, "Look, we are not going to let Mo, we're not going to let Tyrann Mathieu beat us. We're not going to let them make a big play." Because that was our offense all that season, was Tyrann Mathieu making a big play, or somebody on defense making a big play. Normally it's Tyrann, and normally those big plays would happen in the first half, and that would kind of set the tone. But yeah, I think teams are definitely could do that, but I don't feel going into this next year, Sibley, that that's going to be the case. We've won the openers except Wisconsin, UCLA, and Florida State. True. Obviously, Mississippi State, but that was very different. One of those Wisconsin games we were very lucky to win. I think that was a 2014 opener, but I'll take it. That North Carolina opener was very strange, right? It was 30-24. North Carolina was driving to potentially go win the game, and then Tyrann Mathieu made the big play to win it. That game was very strange. I think North Carolina had like 9 players suspended in that game, and I think we should have trounced them. That team was not good. TJ Yates was a good player, but I just don't think that team was that good. But that's the thing about season openers. It's not always clean. It is not always clean. Any updates on number 7? No, I still think we're a few weeks away from that. And look, I'll tell you this. This is no inside information, so y'all don't come pitchforking me here in a second. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is going to get it. All right. Obviously, if there is somebody on this team that's going to get it, it is going to be Malik Neighbors. I do not think Jayden Daniels is going to get it because, there's so much, number 5 stuff out there for Jayden. It's always been his number. That number has a connection to him. But if they went to him and said, "Hey, do you want number 7?" he would obviously take it. But I think he will remain number 5. So outside of him, I don't think there was anyone else that was going to get number 7. So obviously Malik is that guy. Now, obviously Harold Perkins would be a pick, but he's already changed his jersey number 1 to number 4. And I don't think they're going to change it again. It could happen though. It could. Those are the only 2 potential players I could see getting that jersey number. So if it's not going to be Perk, it's obviously going to be Malik Neighbors. Okay. But it may not be given out this year. It may not. I think it will. I think Malik knows he's going to get it. But I could see Malik saying, "Hey, I've got a close identity to number 8," right? Like number 8 isn't like compared to some of the other single digit numbers. Yeah, we had Met, we had Jack Hunt, we had quite a few good number 8s, right? Patrick Queen, recently. But Malik is worn the number 8 well. I could see him sticking with it. I could. But obviously, if they offered him 7, he would take it. Let's go to Roby. Roby's want to talk throwbacks tonight. I love it. The 2010 Cotton Bowl was the most dominant defensive game. Look up the defensive backs in that game. Yeah, Roby, ironically, I was at that game. All right, it was in Jerry's World. That game was so strange. I did not think we were going to blow the brakes off of Texas A&M. But Jordan Jefferson played his best game. Terrence Tolliver played his best game. He had 3 touchdowns in that game. And I actually looked at the highlights of that game today. And it was actually like a Tyrann Mathieu reel. So I didn't look at all the highlights. But, God, Tyrann was so good in that game. He had the interception. He had the fumble recovery, and then he had the rip it out of the tight end's arms and take it to the house play. Okay. I interviewed Tyrann after that game, and man, that dude was unfreaking real in that game. He really, really, really was. And yeah, that was such a dominant performance. But that defensive backfield with Tyrann Mathieu playing at that level, Patrick Peterson, Morris Claiborne, Eric Reed, and all those guys, Daryl Simon, Taylor, all those guys. I mean, it was such a good group. And we're very happy to have that group. Obviously, Derek Bryant, Carnell Hatcher, some deeper cuts there. But you're right, man. That was peak DBU, right? That was the most talent we've ever had in one defensive backfield, and arguably the most talent that any DB room has ever had. Ohio State and Bama, Georgia, don't come at me. Okay. I don't randomly Google search defensive back highlights of other players. I don't ever randomly say, oh, you know what? Let me go look at some Corey Gamble highlights, right? He was very good. He was a two-way player for Ohio State, very solid player. But if a social media account wants to go viral, they always post random Tyrann Mathieu clips. Here's what these major social media accounts do if they want a viral clip to get the algorithm flowing again. They either post a Tyrann Mathieu highlight tape, or they post a 2019 LSU versus all-time greatest team X comparison graphic, or they post random LeBron highlights. That's all these guys do. It is easy to be a social media account manager for one of the big sites. You just post random highlight clips of those 3 things. Algorithm's always going to be popping. Always. Always. That's all you got to do. I watched the entire 2011 season in Iraq, then came home to see the Bama rematch. I almost volunteered to go back. Golden boot off the top rope. Wow. That's deep. That's deep. I will say, okay. Ev, good to see you. Zach, good to see you. Blanche, lots of PHO icons here. Point says, do not get the number 7 out. Bruce says defense will be much better next year. Savian is better than Gay. Perkin, Spates are better at linebacker. I agree. Safety's the same and faster, more athletic corners. Plus all the D-line depth to keep everyone fresh. I love it. Yeah, man. Jordan Jefferson was so freaking good. Okay. In that game. God, he really was. You would have never thunk that Ryan Tannehill was going to be the guy with the long NFL career. Jordan Jefferson looked amazing that game. But Terrence Tolliver, I'm telling you right now, there is not one receiver who had worse luck at LSU than him. There's not a single one of them. And he was very good at LSU. The last out-of-state Louisiana, or the last out-of-state LSU wide receiver to catch at least 40 passes in a season was him. Okay? It was him. It's crazy. Kylan might be Himothy. I like Kylan a lot. I do think he does have some year 1 potential, but I do think he's more of a year 2 guy. I do. A Vietnam story. When I was in Vietnam, we only received mail once a week. No communication except the Stars and Stripes newspaper. I love it. Absolutely love it. I love hearing stories like this. So type Y for yes, type N for no. Should LSU keep the number 7 tradition? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'll tell you this. Leonard Fournette is somebody that believes the tradition should be abolished. TJ, we got a very important conversation you and I have to make this week. I'm pretty excited about it. Let's go to Blanche. Did you see that Freeze said that he is friends with Saban, and Saban got him fired after Freeze beat him twice in a row? Very interesting. I'll give you my thoughts on this, Blanche. But as you can see, it's a good mixture of people with their opinions on the number 7 tradition. Now, I'll answer this. Hugh Freeze is a very strange person, right? I don't think anyone could disagree with that. I don't know why this is the case, but a lot of these offensive masterminds are very weird. I don't know why it's the case. I really don't. Like, these guys are truly the transcendent, offensive minds of the era. A lot of them have baggage. A lot of them have quirks. It's just how it is, right? Whether it be Bryles, whether it be Freeze, whether it be Petrino, very complicated legacies. Some more serious than others, but Hugh Freeze can coach. That's all there is to it. And Saban knew it. Saban knew Hugh Freeze can coach. And a big reason why Auburn hired Hugh Freeze is because he beat Saban twice, right? He beat Nick Saban twice with Ole Miss talent. Auburn, of course, recruits a higher caliber athlete. Now, Auburn used to traditionally be a lock for a top 15 class. Recently, they have been on the back end of the teens in the 16, 17, 18, 19 range. But yeah, it's very strange. All of it is very, very, very strange. So yeah, I think Hugh Freeze is somebody who can get Auburn going again. I can't say a gazillion percent it's going to work because of how competitive the SEC is going to be. But I will tell you this, right? I think Philip Montgomery is a low-key good fit for Auburn as an OC guy. I don't ever think he was really head coach material. And then obviously, what they got going on defensively, Auburn has always had good defensive players. It's going to be interesting to see their pass rush next year with that Hall there. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. But yeah, he also said part of the reason why he chose to not call plays this year and get someone like Philip Montgomery to come in and call the plays is because everyone in the SEC knows his terminology. So he wanted to get someone else who kind of runs his offense, who's got new verbiage, if you will. So it is interesting. Hugh, by all accounts, is very friendly. Okay. I did get a very interesting Hugh Freeze story from someone in his inner circle. And I'll get confirmation if I can share this one or not. It's kind of ironic. But I'll save it for a different day. But I will reach out to see if I can get it. And it is semi-phone related. which is, I was blown away. I was truly, truly, truly blown away by this. But yeah, I don't think Nick got him fired per se. Obviously, a lot of what happened was on his own accord. But yeah, what'd you say, Blanche? Dan Mullen, yeah. I'll say this. Dan Mullen is strange, but the wife stuff always kind of creeped me out. Okay, and I won't go too deep into that. That stuff was just did not sit well with me at all. But that's not here nor there. Yeah, we're losing that game every year. Brandon says number 18 only. Good to see you, B. Lou. Thank you, Blanche, for the super chat. So we'll do it again. Next 10 minutes. If you super chat, we'll keep this going. Let's see. About 60-ish away from getting to the hundo mark for giving out one of my favorite J Hills tonight. Right here. I haven't watched a whole lot of this first name, Jeremiah McClellan, but I do think Kai Bates is really good. That was the only recruit I was really going to talk about tonight. I try not to go too deep into recruiting because I'm ready to focus in on the guys currently on the team. But Bruce, you super chat, you've been so good to me. So I'll let you tell me about Jeremiah McClellan. I've not really watched him. Kai Bates, though, I've watched, and he's pretty solid. And obviously, it would be nice to get, another DB in this class. Andre Evans was a pretty good land because his athleticism, as you know, is just really off the charts. But yeah, I looked at Kai Bates' RPM machine. Rarely do you see like the RPM prediction stuff, Bruce, where it's just like 25, 25, 25, 25 percentage wise. So I have heard everything. I've heard LSU feels good about him. I also heard Tennessee. Look at that. Right, you. I've heard it all. Okay. So yeah. Golden boot. That's hilarious. Oh man. I can't quit thinking about it now. Like it's so weird. So weird. And obviously Dan's a beast. Dan's a good coach, man. When he's locked in, Mullen, he's good. WINGO said Wiggins is who we ought to watch out for. Yeah. He's got the athleticism. East Texas does have these cities. Paris, I have a buddy that lives there. Italy, you name it. You name it. That's for Thanksgiving. That's funny. It would make sense. But I'll tell you this. Dan Mullen as a analyst is really good. He gives really good breakdowns, and you'll see how good of a coach he actually is. But I'll tell you this. If you want to know what happened to Dan Mullen, obviously the shoe throw was the beginning of the end. but he just couldn't keep it together mentally and on the recruiting trail, right? And look, I know Billy Napier is more popular with their Lafayette viewers than most. I don't think anyone here should hate Billy Napier because he did want the LSU job. But now he's one of our rivals, and got to give Billy a lot of credit. This dude is killing it with Florida's recruiting. Now, will he survive? I don't know. I think Florida has the toughest schedule in 2023. I also think they have the toughest schedule in 2024. Okay. Do you think Uncle Brian thinks John Emery should be back? Yeah, I know I'm doing a 180, but I think he is going to show up because of the line improvements. Okay. So, I mentioned this on Blake's show last night. I'll mention it again here. Okay. And I want to be as fair to everybody here. When Brian Kelly was asked about Josh Williams in particular, it was kind of funny because, and I'm not saying I'm Brian Kelly. I'm nowhere close to his coaching prowess and greatness, but it is kind of weird when some of the things that I say is also some of the things that he says. And that's part of the reason why I like Brian Kelly so much, right? Like when Brian Kelly was hired, I was like, I hope to God he is aggressive on fourth down and he is forward thinking when it comes to fourth down decision making. He is that. He is very much that. We are very good on 3rd and 7s and fourth down situations because we were aggressive. We really were. Okay. But, last offseason, we were talking about Josh Williams. I remember doing one show where I was like, God, Josh Williams is reliable. That's why I like him. I know he's going to show up. I know more than likely he's going to be healthy. I know he can pass protect. I know he's not going to fumble. I just like that. And I always said Josh Williams is reliable, but he's not special. He's not special. But last year, Josh started making some special runs. The counter play versus Florida, where he broke 5 tackles to start the third quarter. The Alabama blocks, the Arkansas runs. He was special for us. I bring that up because Brian Kelly said this word about Josh Williams, reliable. He is reliable. Okay. Brian Kelly is a big culture guy. I know every coach is, right? But he likes reliability. He likes guys that he knows are going to be there. And that is a big benefit of adding a guy like Logan Diggs and having a guy like Josh Williams in the room. They have been reliable. Noah Cain, outside of injuries, has been reliable, right? Those guys show up. Those guys can carry a load. Are you going to look at them and think, oh, look, that's Adrian Peterson or Leonard Fournette running the ball? No, you're never going to say that, but you're like, God, these guys are good. And God, these guys know what they're doing. And these guys make the right decisions more often than not. So I say this because I think Brian Kelly saying Josh Williams is reliable, somewhat indirectly, he's not saying that the other running backs aren't reliable, but he's kind of sort of saying that, if that makes sense. He is saying Josh Williams, I could trust him. I can lean on him. Right. So yeah, with John, it's just, you just can't, you just can't, whether it be off the field or injuries or whatever the case may be. So there you go. Billy Napier might be like Ron Zook. Pressure, good to see you. LSU's major opponent is expectations. I like that. I love it. Good to see you. Now, here's what we're going to do. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, if you super chat, we'll keep it going all night long. I appreciate Blanche keeping this going. I think we're about 50 away before we give away this Jeremy Hill card right here to Nice Fun Auto. So, yeah, that third down run versus so legendary. Just to bring that run back up, the 3rd and 7, it was the play before the touchdown to Mason Taylor. God, it was such a great run. It was such a great run. And then, of course, the block he had, I think, was just as impressive. We talk about the Brian Thomas block, but there's 2 other blocks, obviously Mason Taylor and Josh Williams. That Josh Williams block was very interesting because it was against Brian Branch, who was a high round draft pick this year, one of Alabama's best safeties they've ever had. And earlier in the game, Josh Williams got hit so hard by Brian Branch on a pass protection. That was as hard as I've seen a running back get hit on a pass protection. Okay. And the truth is, I'm still a little shook. I'm still a little shook by that hit. I was like, wow. Like, he just got rocked. Okay. Let's keep it going, TJ. So TJ says he wants to keep it rolling. So God did. Huh? I love it. I love it. Let's get to work. God did. I would not take it. The 7 would represent my 40-yard dash time right now. I might be able to run a 7 flat. Might. Okay. So TJ, any topic, it is yours. Thank you for the chunky Bruno Mars super chat here. Chunky. And we're 30 away from the J Hill patch auto being given out to a lucky viewer. And the big O hoops. Drop it down in Daily Dukes. Daisy Dukes. I want to get down. Oh, that song. Is that a Bruno top 5 hit? I don't know. That was Haley and I's first big date. Going to see Bruno in Dallas. Great show. I'll tell you this. As TJ gets his question ready, Bruno in Dallas was good. And I knew the show was going to be great. I'm a big Bruno fan. But his opener, I'd never seen him before, was a guy by the name of Charlie Wilson. I didn't know who Charlie Wilson was. I knew the Gap Band. I didn't know the names of the singers. And I was like, Uncle Charlie, man. God bless. Uncle Charlie, bro. I'm a fan. I lost 5 viewers talking about Charlie Wilson. This is not America. This is not America. Those 5 viewers, 6 viewers that left talking while I shared my love for Charlie Wilson. Oh, don't even speak this into existence. It will not happen. I knew you guys were going to come at me. I knew the Gap Band. I'm horrible with band name singers. I remember when Haley and I started dating, she was like, "You don't know who Dave Grohl is?" I was like, I don't know music. I don't know music that well. But I didn't know any of the Gap Band. But I was like, okay, Charlie Wilson. Uncle Charlie. Oh, okay. So this is a response to Cliff. It's all fine and Danny, you beat Saban once, but if BK loses the next 3, then what? Okay. So the first thing, I see a very loaded question here. And because TJ responded, I'll go to Cliff because it was TJ's super chat. Now, is it plausible that Brian Kelly or anyone loses to Nick Saban 3 times in a row? Yes, it's plausible, but it better not happen. Now, the first thing obviously is, will we even play Alabama 3 times in a row? I don't know. Okay. I don't know. But what I would also tell you, okay, what I would also tell you, all right, as far as winning against Nick Saban, you're not going to blow the guy out. Like, you got to have some good fortune, to beat Nick. You do. So, I think at this point it's going to be 50-50 from this point forward, right? Where they'll win one every once in a while, and hopefully we win 2 out of every 3. But I don't think we're going to lose 3 times in a row to Saban. Knock on wood. But, obviously there's not going to be any division. So if we have the 2 best records in the SEC, obviously we'll play the SEC championship game. I do think, as far as this is concerned from Greg Sankey, he did mention in the press conference earlier this week that if the SEC were to remain at 8, they would not preserve more than 1 rivalry. Okay, so if the SEC schedule were to remain at 8 games, we would not be playing Alabama every year. We wouldn't. We would probably be playing them every other year. Okay. And if it stays at 8 games, it probably still wouldn't work out, even if they, with the 8-game schedule, were going to keep a secondary rivalry, because Alabama's secondary rivalry will always be Tennessee over us as well. Okay. Now, all that's very important, but I don't think Brian Kelly's going to lose to Saban 3 times in a row. I don't. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting about the Nick Saban discussion. And I think the media is going to pick LSU to win the West. I think it's going to be close. I do believe that. Okay. Let's go to Thibodeau here. All right. You're lying to yourself if you think Saban is running out of gas. Okay. But is he? It's just a question. Okay. Kevin Steele is one of the better defensive coordinators out there. I thought that was a good hire. I'm not just saying this because of the Notre Dame thing. I don't quite understand the hype around Tommy Rees. I just don't get it, right? The reason why Tommy Rees is even a coordinator to begin with is because of Brian Kelly. Tommy Rees has never been a position coach anywhere else other than Notre Dame. Okay? And he got that job because of nepotism. He played for Brian Kelly, and, he worked his way up. And sure, he was a fine OC last year. His yard per play numbers got better under Notre Dame last year, and he had hellacious, quarterback situation with the injuries that he had to overcome. But I didn't like that hire. This is the most weird quarterback situation we've seen Nick have in quite some time. He did lose the best pass rusher he's ever had and the best quarterback he's ever had. And could someone tell me who Alabama's go-to wide receiver is going to be next year? Has anybody in that wide receiver room? I think Ja'Cory Brooks might be a little bit better than we're giving him credit for, but yeah, you tell me. You tell me. By the way, why did the LSU-Alabama game go into overtime? Well, Nick Saban made a very strange decision to go for 2 to go up 5. And that decision, in theory, prevented that final field goal from Alabama to be the game-winning field goal compared to the game-tying field goal. I think his fourth down decision-making isn't the best. I think he could be way too conservative. And I think that can handcuff you as a play caller, right? Especially if you're one like Tommy Reese coming in. So I do see some weakness here. I'm not telling you that Nick Saban still isn't one of the best coaches of all time, and I'm still not telling you that he's not a top 5 coach in this conference. But I'm telling you right now, last year was not his best, and I know everyone's going to point to, hey, they lost on the final play of the game both times. True. But they were also very fortunate to win versus Texas A&M, win versus Texas, and the other game that was close, win versus Ole Miss. Okay. I thought both coordinator hires were underwhelming. This will be an interesting year to watch for Nick for sure. I do. I'll say this. Kevin Steele obviously has LSU ties. So, whenever I'm talking about Jimbo or Kirby or anyone, obviously we're in kind of a weird spot being LSU fans because so many of these guys coached at LSU. Muschamp, Saban, Kirby, Monken, Jimbo. It's an infinite list. It's an infinite list of coaches who coach from LSU in that 2002 to 2006-7 range that are thriving at other jobs, right? It's very weird. It's a weird thing. So I'm always going to be, appreciative of those coaches because we won a lot of football games. We won national championships with those guys. And I am not the Saban hater. I've interviewed Saban one-on-one before. He treated me with respect. Obviously, I was low totem pole reporter fresh out of college. And had someone track down his he got his travel itinerary, and I was able to meet Nick Saban at an airport and interview him. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Nick's future. I think Kevin Steele is really good, though. I do. And I think his defensive game plan versus us in 2019 is still one of the best defensively coached games I've ever seen from any defense at any level versus us. That was crazy what he was able to do. It was the only defense that really had any success versus us at all. And obviously, they had dudes. They had dudes out there making plays. But that was a really, really well-coached game by him. But if you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, it doesn't matter. Thank God LSU had nothing to do with Jeremy Pruitt. There's 1,000 different Jeremy Pruitt stories. Same drive in your 70s as you did while young, yeah. Yeah, and truth be told, like Bryce did not have his best game versus us, and we played our best game of the season. I mean, we just did. Like we were just really, we're really, really, really good. Let's go to Sibley here. Let's not forget that the SEC is a players' league. Thus, coaches gravitate towards good player leagues. Carter could coach Bama next season. While I could not coach Alabama, I do agree with the first part of this. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. A good example of this, okay, as far as being like a players' league. So there's a few teams you can point out and use this as an example, but let's just use Arkansas as an example. Okay, an SEC team I think all of us are familiar with. Let's take a look at their coaching hires. Obviously, the Chad Morris hire was an absolute disaster. The staff, everything about it was bad. They did have Jeff Traylor on that staff, and he's one of the best coaches in the sport at any level. He's really that good at UTSA. But you look at the Arkansas head coaches that they've had. So Bobby Petrino is really good. Right? I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Very problematic, but really good. Okay. Houston Nutt was a very good coach at Arkansas. Yes, he had Darren McFadden, but still, he was a very good coach. And obviously, Sam Pittman now has done really good things and fighting an uphill battle. It's helped that he's had good quarterback play, but Sam's a solid coach. And then, to me, one of the best coaches was Brett Bielema. I mean, Brett Bielema is so freaking good. Like, the way he won games last year with Illinois, Ryan Walters as his DC, their defense was so good. And Walters is going to be at Purdue now, the head coach there. Brett Bielema is a really good coach. He is a really, really good football coach. And he's at Illinois. And Illinois is not a place where you go and win big. It's just not. But you're in Arkansas. You don't get the best players. Okay? It takes a lot to not be successful at Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. Those three schools just recruit on a different level than all the other schools. And if you have a really good coach, it can catapult you to the next level. That's so funny. It's funny. So my biggest video on Power Hour SEC. All right. And by the way, I'm dropping another fun video tomorrow on Power Hour SEC, comparing the coach in the SEC with the biggest ego compared to the coach in the SEC with the smallest ego. Okay. And Beyonce is going to be making an appearance. Go subscribe to Power Hour SEC. Please do. Dropping another video there tomorrow. But Jared, you made a joke here. So my most viral video on Power Hour SEC has well over 80,000 views. And it was on a bad call. And it was a controversial missed call in the final field goal on Tennessee. And in the video, I explicitly said, hey, I thought this was interesting that this call wasn't made, but I wanted Tennessee to win the game. I said it in the video. I also said in the video that I am an LSU fan. I have a huge photo of Joe Burrow in my background. But for some reason or another, the comment section was full of everybody accusing me of being an Alabama fan, which is very funny because when I launched Power Hour SEC, everybody thought I was a Tennessee fan because I had so much pro-Tennessee content. Okay, I had Tennessee winning the East. I said go, place a few wagers on responsibly on Hendon Hooker to win the Heisman. I said that those are two long shots that are worth it, and I also said go take Tennessee to hit the over on their win total. Now, obviously, only one of those things came to fruition. But it was ironic that the Tennessee fans were pitchforking me. They were furious, okay? And it's just a good idea on YouTube to just do lowest common denominator content. And the lowest common denominator in college football is complaining about referees. I'm telling you right now, I'm giving every one of you $1 million idea. Start a channel where you only point out bad calls. Okay? It draws the most eyeballs, and that pisses me off so badly. It really does, because then the content is about the referee, which, a lot of people say, well, I don't watch games because of the referee. A lot of fans do, because all fans like to do is and moan about the referees. That's all they like to do. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the name that they always are going to bring up is Dabo. I don't see Dabo ever going to Alabama. Even though he played there, I just don't see that happening. There's quite a few names that could be that guy at Alabama, right? Like, obviously, Nick likes his own guy, so, I could see one of his former assistants taking that job. Obviously, Lane would take that job immediately without even being asked. But would Alabama go that route? I don't know. But I think Lane takes that job. I could see them also. It would also depend on how Saban would want to depart. Saban is such a stickler for recruiting that I think he would want it to be one of these things where he would get a class signed and then just say, I can't do this anymore. So I think it very well could be a situation where TJ, they hire an interim, and that interim be someone like a Holloman Wiggins or somebody like that. Someone that's on the staff now. Obviously, we don't know what the staff would be. Obviously, Saban, I don't think is going to retire this year or the next. But yeah, I could see them doing an interim thing and then seeing what's going to happen there. And then, at some point, going out and going to get somebody. I could see it. I could also see what, like, Belichick's doing in New England. So New England already has their next head coach picked out, and it's Gerard Mayo. So I could see, Nick, if he actually decides that it's over, he could say, hey, we were putting an associate head coach title on Coach X, and he is going to take over when I retire. So I think that's the route that they would go. Now, we'll do it again. Next 5 to 10 minutes, if you super chat, we'll keep it going. If not, we'll see you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. No one wants to live in Tuscaloosa. The campus is beautiful. But yeah, I think Tuscaloosa is probably at best, 5th most desirable city in Alabama to live in. Huntsville, Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope. And maybe Tuscaloosa is number 5 there. Pooh Bear, help me out if you're still there. Vandy is the most desirable. Nashville's a fun city. The Mountain West has informed San Diego State that the school will remain a member. Okay, some other news. SEC penalizing the horns down signal in 2024. Is it taunting an opponent? I don't know. Let's see a few other things. This NFL running back thing is so interesting. $92 million is actually 9.2. There you go. It's a big difference. But 9.2 is still a lot of money. Shout out to Paul Skeens. Totally agree. Baton Rouge is fun. And that's all there is to it. It's a very fun city. But what about the crime? Yeah, the crime's bad. But you're not to downplay it at all. But what city doesn't have crime in America? It's crazy. I love Baton Rouge, though. Trying to move there. 9.2 million. Wow. So there you go. Now, we got a fun live stream lined up for you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central, Wednesday. It should be a fun one. Then we'll be back Thursday, 8:15 Central. Tomorrow we'll drop a video on Power Hour SEC. And we'll do a fantasy draft on my fantasy channel tomorrow night as well. Let's do it. It is Power Hour LSU. Bam! Let's go through the super chats, as we always like to do at the end. Jordan, always holding it down. Jared, Roby, Blanche, TJ. We got close to the hundo mark. Don't worry. It'll still be here. If we hit a hundo, we'll get this bad boy out tomorrow night. Let's go. And tonight we are doing chicken enchiladas, baby. Night